And we're live. What's going on, everybody? Hey, hi, Amanda.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, I'm great now. Happy you're joining me. So everybody, welcome to the Dream Chaser Spotlight. My name's Jerry Kuykendall, Coach Jerry, HLC. I'm joined today by Amanda Kiefer Dunn. And just a reminder that the Dream Chaser Spotlight is something that I created to highlight people that have influenced me and inspired me, and I hope that they'll do the same for you. And my goal and my dream is to get people out in front of you all so that you can see the benefits of chasing and monetizing your passions. And even if you're not monetizing your passion, just giving attention and awareness to what it is that makes you tick. My name's Jerry. I go by Coach Jerry. That's my business name. I've made it my life's work to take the sick and tired and guide them to a state of vitality and high vitality and high athleticism through the miracle of internal and external fitness. And today I'm joined by Amanda Kiefer Dunn, and Amanda Kiefer Dunn is an intuitive tarot reader. And I came across Amanda's work on YouTube, actually. So I encourage you guys to go to YouTube after this and check out the Dunn Creative, where Amanda does live tarot readings. She's going to go live later this afternoon. I'll give her an opportunity to explain that all to you later. But, Amanda, I don't know if I ever told you this, but, when I first came across your work, this stuff, very much interests me. And what really interests me, especially with the shows that I followed of yours, is the first two times I tuned in, you were actually doing a reading for Sagittarius. And I think I told you I'm a cusper, so I'm a Sagittarius Scorpio cusper. November 22nd is my birthday. And the cards that you pulled for us that day they really hit home. I mean, every one of them. And then you did a later one, and I believe this one was you had three different groups. I think group 1, 2, and 3. And I think you asked us to pause and take a mini meditation on which group you wanted us to belong to. And I believe I was in group 3. And so I went through and I scrubbed through your video to get to group 3. And once again, I was really marveled and a little shaken at how you really hit the nail on the head from my personal perspective. So just to fill you in and everyone else, I'm going through a career change right now. As those that me may be aware, I've been very passionate about health and wellness, and in particular the holistic aspect of it, and how everything connects to everything else. And I've decided to just make the jump and monetize my passion and chase my dream. And so I found myself really in admiration of folks like you. So that's where I'm at right now. And this is how you've inspired and influenced me. And I thank you so much for agreeing to come on today. So Amanda, I would like to just let everybody know a little bit more about you. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of sharing your journey for us, what got you into this line of passion, and what led you here, and what are you discovering on a daily basis now that you're here?
All right. Well, thanks for having me. It's really good to be here. Yeah, back in 1997, we got the first tarot deck in my family, and we at one point lost the book. So I was just mesmerized by the pictures and making my own interpretations of what that means. And then when I finally got my hands on another deck with a book and really looked into what each card means, I was just blown away how my own intuition really honed in on what the foundation of each card is. And then there were certain things in the card that my own intuition would put on it that it wasn't in that guidebook. So I thought it was cool that I both tapped into what the card actually meant and then my own little intuitive spin on it. And anyone that's wanting to learn tarot, I just say, throw the book away or put it away first and just really immerse yourself in it, because you're going to be surprised how much your intuition will tap into what that card actually means for you. Mm-hmm. But I have been doing this on and off as far as just for my own personal development. This is a great way to tap into your own personal development. If you have an oracle card deck or a tarot card deck, you can pull a card each day as kind of a guideline for what you can expect that day, or inspiration for yourself for that day. That's kind of how I started doing this. And then I would do readings for friends and family. And then from there, other people like, you should do this like for more people. And I thought, well, what's a good way I can get to more people would be on YouTube. And of course, I was absolutely terrified because I'm an introvert at heart and I just love to be on my own and do my own introspection without having to, most of the time, explain what's going on in here to the outer world. But that's actually helped me on a soul level come out of my shell. And especially after 2016, I had a spontaneous Kundalini Awakening, which if you don't know what that is, I'll just leave that story for another time. You can Google what that means, but it's basically a forced spiritual awakening. You have no choice but to start facing your own inner demons, your own brainwashing or social engineering of who it is you are supposed to be and what you're here to do. And just breaking out of the box that society and the world and the government has put you in, and discovering who you came here to be on a soul level, not just how to go make that coin or how to impress your friends and your family to be this so I can impress everybody. You leave all that behind and that doesn't matter to you anymore. And you're like, as you say, chasing your dreams, doing what your soul came here to do. And you have no choice to go back to sleep once you awaken to what you are. We are all souls, a fractal of the source of all that is, having a human experience. So even if you're down on your luck and having the worst day ever, the worst life ever, if you can tap into that knowing that your higher self, that soul aspect of you, is a limitless being on the other side, doing amazing things, creating universes, doing all the things, your world doesn't look so small and dire anymore. You realize you have a part of that amazing source within you that you can use to create the life you want. And of course, I don't call us just creators. We're co-creators with the universe, because you can't do it alone. And we are all connected, as you say. Going to my channel, doing, we call them pick a card readings, where I'll deal out 3 or however many piles. And your own intuition will direct you to the pile that is meant for you. And you'll find 9 times out of 10, if you watch the other piles that you didn't intuitively select, that they really don't resonate, or maybe certain themes throughout all of them do resonate, but your intuition's really on it. But going back to that feeling where we're all connected, and, in a world where we feel more disconnected than ever, we're actually, if you think about it, more connected than ever, because what we're doing is we're letting the old parts of ourselves, the parts we were engineered to be, slough off, and we're cutting to the heart of that. So if we can stop, fixating on what it is that's so different about us, and what I hate about you, or what triggers me when you say this thing. People triggering each other is a gift. It really is, because it's just reminding us, yes, we are all connected. And if you look at one side or another, or right down the middle, we all really do want the same things. We want to pursue our passions. We want to live a life of happiness and abundance. At the heart of everyone out there, that's what we want. We all just have different paths up the mountain to get us there. And part of what I do on my channel is just to help each person remember that soul aspect of themselves. I'm not some amazing guru that's telling you everything. I'm just teaching you maybe a few tools that you can go discover all this stuff on your own. And that's all I ever want to do or be, is just that maybe catalyst or a little seed planter. You and each of us are the ones doing the work. We're not going to some teacher to do the work for us. They push us, they trigger us, they inspire us, but they're not the ones doing the work. It's us. It's up to each one of us to shine our lights as bright as we can. And the best way to do that is to forget who you were told to be and become who your soul told you to be when you incarnated. So that's about all my spiel.
That's powerful. That's real powerful. That really speaks to something that hit me a couple years ago, and I came across some content that just talked about soul contracts and living in and out of alignment. And basically the gist that I got from that information and some of the books that I've read since then is that when you're not fulfilling your soul's purpose, or you're not even close to, in other words, if you've got this dream, and I use this analogy all the time about taking your dream and putting it on the shelf, and every once in a while we'll look over at it out of the corner of our eye and watch it collect dust. And so if we continue to watch it collect dust, there is a push, right? Usually an internal push saying, hey, you need to go get that. And there's also a pull, right? So there's a pull from the universe or fate or God or whoever, however it best resonates with you. But you're actually resisting the push and the pull of living out of alignment of, what you, as you said, what you were sent here to do, your soul's contract. And so that was really powerful, really resonated with me. And you touched upon a couple other things too that I think are really important that we discussed today. And I've got notes, so we'll get to them later, but some very important topics. And I like where you were going with that. Just real quick before we move on, you talked about how you discovered this gift and this propensity to be able to be intuitive about the tarot readings, and you were getting encouraged. So that would be like the push-pull, right? You were being pulled by your friends and loved ones, and there was this inner push as well. And from what I can gather by what you said, there was a bit of a resistance, right? Maybe a belief barrier or something, but there's a bit of a resistance keeping you from going there. And so a couple questions for you there. One, how much energy, and this is for the people watching that might have a dream over there that they're watching collect dust. How much energy did it take you to resist the push and the pull? And two, what actually, and I can repeat the second question too. What actually was the catalyst that sparked the action, which I can tell that you're so glad you've taken.
Yeah.
So one, how much energy did it take to resist that? And two, what was the catalyst that sparked the action?
Well, that's the interesting thing, is you will notice in your life that the more you push in the direction you think you need to go, it just doesn't work out. No matter how much attention, energy, power you put into it, it's like you're hitting brick wall, brick wall, brick wall, closed door, closed door, closed door. And it kind of forces you into stepping back and thinking, well, what would work instead? And for me, that big kind of aha moment for me, besides the spontaneous Kundalini Awakening, was I had a pretty successful photography business here in Montana. And I didn't even ever have to advertise. I just used Facebook or Instagram and word of mouth. And I was just busy as I wanted to be, because I was a mom to two very young boys at the time. I mean, I still am a mom to them, but they were much younger then. But it just came to a point where I was getting very comfortable in that. And, you know, my ego was really involved in that. Like, if this picture gets this many likes, then I bet it was a good picture. And just trying to chase that next adrenaline rush of, I hope that this client loves their photos, and what if they don't? And, you know, all of that, just getting really caught up in striving to be something instead of creating the art like I had done before the business, just creating the art for the love of creating the art. And after a while, the universe, God, spirit, my own higher self, whoever it was, probably a mixture of all, just decided to somehow put a big brick wall in front of my photography business. Overnight, the phone stopped ringing. I would get almost no views on any of the photos that I was still doing. And I went through a really dark period where I'm like, I must not be good. I don't know what happened, and just trying to blame, like, well, the market's saturated. There's all these photographers. And I really had to dive deep within my own soul to realize that, no, this is my own higher self stepping in and intervening and saying, that's all fun and games and that's all great and everything, but you're here to do something so much more. And you can still enjoy that as like a side thing or, you know, for your own enjoyment, but you're going this way. And for me, it started as me wanting to start getting back into the young adult book that I was writing that started as like a Sims 2, you know, the game The Sims. I started writing that as a series on The Sims 2 way back in 2005. And I always knew someday I would revive that series and create an actual book out of it. Well, that book, the research for that and everything, I started when I would go to sleep at night. I would get these downloads of information. I would see these swirling lights and like geometric shapes as my eyes would close. And then one night, the night of October 15th, going into the 16th of 2016, the spontaneous Kundalini Awakening. And it's all uphill from there and then downhill in a good way from there. Just, it's like the next spirit was just putting breadcrumbs in front of me, and I would go down all these rabbit holes about, you know, as we coin them now, conspiracy theories, and just the thing within me that always felt so uncomfortable trying to fit in. And I would try on all these hats or try to fit in all these boxes. And it just came to the point where I realized, no, I'm not here to be anyone but who I'm authentically created to be. And when I went in that direction, I haven't had a moment's like rest yet, because I'm so excited to just go and really immerse myself in what it is I'm here to do, who it is I'm here to be, and what is the next thing for me. And not just, oh, me, but how can I shine my light to really help and inspire others? And when I just got out of my own way and tried to, and stopped trying to force something that wasn't working anymore, and just kind of surrendered to what was, it's like my whole world changed for the better. But of course, along the way, even good changes are really hard to go through. When you're excited about a change, it's still difficult. But when you can learn to surrender to the changes that are already going on in your life, and realizing that your higher self, your soul, has a bigger plan for you than your ego or your mind has, and you kind of surrender yourself to that. It's not to say you lose all control of your life and you're a puppet for your soul or anything like that, but you're more of a co-creator with your soul. And I say, let the ego step out of that driver's seat and get more shotgun, and let your higher self come more in to that driver's role. Of course, your ego's still there, because we need that ego to survive, but we don't need to let it run our lives. So, yeah.
Yeah. So what sparked your action was, did you finally gain the clarity and the vision of what you could provide for really the globe?
Yeah, I did.
It got you out of your own way?
I did. And it was through, that trigger of that Kundalini Awakening really got me into meditation and just examining my own limiting beliefs about who I am, what my socioeconomic status means or doesn't mean, just what it is I'm here to do, and if that even lines up with what degrees that I have, what income I have. Like, it doesn't always line up. And we can have all the degrees in the world, but if we're out of touch with our soul and what it is we're here to do, you're just never gonna be happy. You're always gonna be chasing like the next best thing instead of following the path of your truth. And yeah.
Absolutely. That's very, very beautifully put. And that sparked another thought in me when you talk about the Kundalini Awakening. When you said 2016, do you have an idea of like date, month when that occurred for you?
Yeah, it was October 15th of 2016.
Okay, this is awesome. Keep going, please do.
Yeah, it was the night. It was a full moon that night, and I literally felt like I had the flu. There was so much energy running through me that it really did start. I had fallen asleep. I wasn't feeling that great, but I went to bed and I started feeling this, like, if you're laying in bed and your washer is on that spin cycle, sometimes it will rattle your house. That's how it felt. And I kind of sat up from my sleep and was like, is the washer like, what is happening? It's like in the morning, like in the middle of the night. And I just started feeling this really intense vibration in my like lower abdomen area. And it just got more intense. But instead of being afraid, like I think I normally would have been, I just had this overwhelming sense of calm and peace come over me. Like I felt like I had this like horseshoe of like guides or just supporters around me, like spiritual support. And I've always been able to sense spirit, some good, some not so good. But this was like on a whole other level. And I knew whatever was happening to me was going to be okay, and that I was being transformed. And it hadn't been anything I had known about until then. I didn't know what a Kundalini Awakening was. When I just asked in my own intuition or telepathically trying to connect to this horseshoe of spirit around me, I asked, what is happening to me? And they spelled out the word Kundalini in my head, which to me was great valid. I'm that guy. I need proof of something. If I'm going to say this is real, I need proof of it. And later that day, after they showed me so many things about my life, they kind of took me through my life. It was crazy. But later looking into that, looking up Kundalini, what it was, I was just beyond floored. Like, this is real. Like, what is happening? How could I have known that? That had to have been some sort of intervention from spirit to let me know what that was. It was like I Googled it in my own head or something.
Yeah. You tapped into the collective consciousness and the all-knowing that we're blessed to be connected to if we open the open the signal or turn the dial to the right station or just let the message come in. Well, I'm being totally honest right now. You just gave me big chills. This is, if my wife's watching, she might be getting chills too. So I had a guest on last week. Her name was Christina, awesome guest, but she shared her awakening story as well. And then I shared mine, and I'll briefly go over it for those that didn't tune in last week, but hers occurred in October of 2016 as well, I believe.
Oh, wow.
And my Kundalini awakening occurred in a fishing trip in October of 2016.
Wow.
And it wasn't quite as, it sounds like yours kind of just went through all your chakra and really just kind of opened them up and activated them all at once, which is, for those of you that are tuning in that might think this might be a little airy-fairy or woo-woo, I suggest that you strongly withhold your judgment until you can experience it yourself, or at least put you in a situation to experience. Because much like yourself, I am a prove it to me person. I was an atheist for 30 some years. I'm 42 now. I'm far from atheist now. And that was because of my awakening. And for me, I was on a fishing trip, and I was living poorly. I thought I was doing things right. I was working out all the time and all that. But again, just touching on a couple egoistic aspects of overall health and well-being. But I'll never forget it. I was watching my dad fish while I was standing on the shore, and the word suicide hit me like a ton of bricks on the side of my head. Never contemplated it, never thought about it, never even considered it. So I got weak in the knees. I was like, had to physically brace myself. What is this? It was very strong. Just like you said, like there was like a message implanted in my brain. And so I had to where did this come from? I had no spiritual aspirations at the time, nothing whatsoever. And didn't think much of it. I went back home. This was in Washington State. I went back home and you didn't think much of it, and then got into yoga actually for mobility reasons, so I could lift more weight, and be more manly and strong, and to prove I am a man. And anyway, so I got into yoga, and things started to shift, like the way I looked at the world and thoughts, and there was that pause in between thoughts, and I found myself in that state as a default state a lot. And so I thought, this is strange. Got into meditation, and I'll never forget, I was at the yoga room at the Peak gym here in Missoula, Montana. And I was doing a meditation in there after a yoga session. And much like you just described, I had a total full body response to a thought that I was having. And I immediately started pouring in sweat, and I just started crying. And so for those of you that challenge these assertions or purported spiritual awakenings, I understand your reservations, but I just ask that anybody really try to experience this for yourself, because it really is chilling. And then you end up finding yourself attracted to kindred spirits and like-minded people such as yourself. And it's really, it's lifting, it's uplifting to hear how similar the stories are, yet, there's a lot of differences, but yeah, that's awesome. So to touch up on this, since we're on the Kundalini track here, a big buzz term in 2020 was the Great Awakening, and I'm sure you've seen that being thrown around. I personally think it might be being misused just a little bit and maybe misinterpreted, and it means different things to different people, but that's okay. That's just, I don't disparage it at all. But it seems to me like if we are going through a Great Awakening, let's just say as a nation, in my mind, and it could be my own negative biases, but it appears to me that we're very much stuck in our root. We're very much in the safety, security area of our collective self, which means, the negative would be that there's a lot of work to be done to get to our higher self, our higher integrated consciousness, on a developmental scale. Maybe we think we're at this postmodernist stage where we're just about to wake up, but I don't think we're there yet. But that's just my take. So I was curious what you think about this awakening that appears to be unfolding, and maybe your take on where we're really at, and where you think we're headed.
Yeah. Well, as far as, there are two ways you can look at hashtag woke and all of that. And being woke to the ways of the world is one way, but being more woke or awakened to our spiritual aspect is taking it even deeper. But I think for most people, because we are on a 3D material world, it usually comes, the awakening usually comes as to awakening to what's going on in the world. And I remember when it was 1996, so it was right before I discovered tarot, and I was 13, almost 14 years old at the time. And one of my ex-stepdads, crazy friends came over with this videotape about martial law and black helicopters following people around. And we watched that about like the David Koresh stuff. And we were just, my brother, sister, and I, and my mom, and like we were all just like, wow, like it kind of just woke something up within us that you start thinking of the things that don't really add up or line up in what we're told is real. And just knowing that the victors write the history books and all of that, it just really made me from a pretty early age really think that maybe the world isn't quite what we've been sold or told it is. And I've always been at least what I would consider curious to, the mysteries of the world and aliens and just all the things that are kind of hidden or not really well known about. And that really sparked something within me watching that, and then just seeing things on the news that they'll say it's one way, but your observation of it may be completely opposite. And trying to, on that soul level or that internal level, make sense of what does this mean for me? If they say it's this way, but my intuition is saying it's this other way, what does that mean for me? And, a lot of people can go into what they call a dark night of the soul after they do a bunch of research and go down, as they call them, rabbit holes, and learn that we've been lied to on a massive scale. And even a lot of, the conspiracy theories and the things that have been thrown out, there's a lot of what I would call disinformation agents out there as well, just trying to, call it kind of the kitchen sink effect. Like, oh, let's just say this happens and throw it out there and see if we get a bite on that and see how far these people will run with it. But they're really taking, and by they, I mean, you can interpret they as however you want, whoever you consider as like a controller of this realm. But they are putting other people out there to kind of muddy the water so it's not so clear. So the best way to get the clarity anyone needs is to go within, because you can research and go down rabbit holes all day long, and you're going to get varying degrees of this is what really happened here, this is what really happened there. And they could be two opposite ends of the spectrum. Take 9/11 as an example. We won't get too far into it, but there are certain people that know this happened for sure. And then other people that know the exact opposite happened for sure. And then everything in between. So going in within during a meditation or doing a sort of self-hypnosis to try to gain the truth of what really is, that is your best bet. Because you can listen to, the professionals on this end or the extreme conspiracy theorists on this end, and everyone's got their own version of truth. But on a universal scale, there is that one truth that I don't think any of us quite know or can tap into, because for one, we don't have all the information, and we can only kind of speculate or use our intuition to say, well, this doesn't feel 100% right, but maybe we don't know what part of it isn't right, what part is. And you can literally drive yourself into a mental hospital if you really try to get to the bottom of that. And I came to a point where I was online researching things for upwards of 8, 9, 10 hours a day with 2 young children. That wasn't healthy for me, but my soul was just needing to wake me up and get me to realize that we're not living authentically with the earth the way we're supposed to be. And pretty much every way we operate as a norm on this planet is kind of ass backwards, so to speak. And you can drive yourself to the loony bin trying to prove X, Y, and Z equals 7, 8, 9 or whatever, but really the best thing you can do at times, and I would say for a lot of us with what's going on in the world now would probably be a good time, but to step away from social media, step away from all your research projects about all the rabbit holes you're going down, and just connect with the earth, connect with your own higher self, go into meditation and really see, does that truth of whatever's going on anywhere even matter? Like you could really gnaw on that for a while to try to figure out, does any of this even matter? Or should I just live a life of fulfillment and peace for myself and my family? And, kind of letting the outside world. And a lot of times people are like, well, you need to be informed of the news and everything. And it's like, well, sure, in your local area, because that's where things are happening for you. But on a grand scale, if you're interested or putting your hands in all the cookie jars of all the bad news going on, because it's always bad news, right?
Yeah. If it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah. So you could be going, that's mentally unhealthy if you're just constantly fixated on all the problems of the world, because you're just projecting your power out there. But when you go within, you're bringing all those fractals of your power back to yourself and realizing maybe things aren't as bad as the news is trying to tell us, or these officials are trying to tell us, or even our own friends and family are trying to tell us. Because the world, if you look online or on the news, it looks like a dumpster fire. It looks like the world's going to end tomorrow. But I know a different reality when I unplug, and I do this a lot. I will go on social media hiatus for 1-2 months at a time and almost begrudgingly drag myself back because I want to connect with people I love and care about. But it's almost like, oh, here we go again. And then before I know it, I'm in it again, and I'm scrolling, and I'm like, yeah, that makes me mad too. And then
anger emoji.
And then I gotta check back in with that inner part of myself that's like, wait a minute, is this, triggering is good on certain levels, but if you're living in that constantly triggered state, that fight or flight, that reptilian brain all day, every day, you're just gonna make yourself sick and not do anything good for yourself. So at some point, all of us have to ask ourselves, is this healthy? Should I even be reading the news? Should I even be fighting with people on social media? And usually the answer is no.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all have our own crosses to bear and bones to pick, but there comes a point for a lot of us in this awakened state that we just kind of step out of the matrix, so to speak, and we're more observing than parts of a cog in the machine. We're more the observer of that.
Yeah.
Not to say we can't get triggered and kind of put ourselves back in it or project ourselves back in it, but most people who are awakening, they realize, that ego part of ourselves is that fear part that feeds and eats all the fear that the media or everyone is just throwing down. And it's that soul part of ourselves that's like, no, on every level, you are safe. You are a limitless being. You're not going to die. Possibly your physical body will die, and it's guaranteed in this life, but you're going to go on. So, in the grand scheme of your soul's evolution, this is but a blip on the radar. And just remembering that when you come across an opposing viewpoint on Facebook, and, a lot of times we want to engage with it, but when you can have that higher soul or higher self perspective, you're maybe just going to scroll and then go put something uplifting on your own page to maybe plant a seed for somebody that comes across that later to look at that and be like, I don't have to participate in this freak show that's going on Earth. I can do something different. Yeah.
I love it. What I hear and what you say is, it really highlights the battles that we're all going through, right? We have the external, which puts us, like you said, in our reptilian mind, we're in our fight or flight, confrontational survival mode. And then we have the internal, right, where we go into objectifying things and really boil them down to what they mean to us, for us, how they can serve us, and maybe how they're not. And then there's philosophical. And I think those three battles in everybody's own internal processing of those different dynamics has kind of got us in this like washing machine of it's really a pathology from what I can observe in our ability to relate to our world and to each other. And on that note, so what I'm seeing a lot of divide, and like even down to on the spiritual sense, there's a divide. We're dividing ourselves from the earth, from Mother Earth, Gaia. We're intentionally creating this separation as if we're better than than the planet we live on, and we are creating this divide from people that have different opinions of us, you know, on an external and philosophical level. And so, and that's resulting in a lot of unfriending and like you say, a lot of bickering and fighting on there. And so if you could pinpoint something that we all could do individually, in other words, you, me, anybody who's watching this, anybody who's going to watch it later, something that they could maybe go and spend, you know, 10 minutes to an hour on today to begin to become a better part of that whole situation, what would you think it would be?
Yeah, well, there's a couple things I think we could do, and one of them is just to have gratitude for everything we have in our lives, and even the connection we have to this person that we're maybe a little bit upset about because they have an opposing viewpoint. But really, it's basically cutting to the heart of the fact that a lot of times when people are lashing out at other people, they are coming from that reptilian brain. They're coming from that fight or flight, that panicked adrenaline rush kind of mode of operation, and they're not going to say something that's going to be very loving from that point. So just remembering as you're scrolling media or as you're having conversations with people who maybe are a little hot in the head with what they're trying to project to you, is just to remember that they're coming from a place of fear. They're scared for the future. And that human part of ourselves will, of course, be very sympathetic or empathetic to, unless we're sociopaths, be very empathetic to the point where, wow, they're scared. I'm scared too, but I'm scared for the opposite reason, or the thing that they think is going to make them safe, that makes me scared. But it's kind of going back to that metaphor of we're all on the same mountain, but we're just taking different paths up that mountain. And certain people's paths right now are full of brush, and there's a lot of slashing and burning going on to get just one step closer. And just reminding yourself that your path is different from their path, and their path may involve them having a completely opposing viewpoint than you. That doesn't make them right. That doesn't make them wrong. It doesn't make you right or wrong. And I know there is that ultimate truth that maybe not any of us quite have tapped into, because we are operating on this 3D level. But, with the Great Awakening you were talking about, there is this rise in consciousness, more fifth dimensional consciousness coming online, especially in those who are awakening. And people are awakening every day. And some are awakening one day, and then the next week they're a totally different person. And that scares people who knew the person they were last week or 3 months ago. That scares people because change is hard in this 3D world. When we see people around us changing, a lot of times we're like, well, they went crazy. What's going on with them? Or if they believe something different, they're crazy. What's going on with them? But really just reminding, the thing we can do is just remind ourselves that we all have different reasons for having incarnated here. We all have different ways to get to that same pinnacle point on that mountain, and to love that person for the work they're doing, even if we don't agree with the path they're paving and it looks destructive to us. Just remembering that, in the grand scheme of everything, there are different timelines too. There is this very long-standing 3-dimensional timeline that most of the collective is still on, but there's also now access to a higher dimensional, 5th-dimensional consciousness timeline where you may see a lot of stuff going on out in the world, but your personal life has never looked better. That's, where your attention goes, your energy flows. So if you're going to be throwing gas on that dumpster fire, you're going to start seeing that trail of fire lead into your own life. So loving people for who it is they are, what it is they believe, and a lot of times that would even look like detaching from the situation or from the relationship. That's not to say you can't be involved with this person or go out for drinks with this person or whatever it is you guys do. But just knowing if there are certain trigger words or trigger things, maybe having a conversation with these people. It's like, I love you. I know you think this way, I think this way, but maybe we just cool it on this talk for a while and just focus on the things about each other that we enjoy, how come we became friends in the first place, and focusing on that? Or what is it about the two of us in this relationship, be it a friend, an aunt, a cousin, a whoever in your life, especially on social media, because that's where a lot of people go to socialize in these, pandemic days. But just reminding yourself, and there may be certain people in your life that it would be fine if you did let them go, cut that cord and move on. But it's going to look different for each person, I think. But just reminding, having that sense of gratitude for the life you do have, what you do have in it, the good times you had with these people maybe that you're fighting with on social media, that would be a good way to really, a good thing to focus on. Because when we focus on the difference and the divide, it just becomes a bigger and bigger chasm every moment that we're focusing on that divide. And
I love it. I love it. I couldn't agree more. It really resonates with me. In fact, a visual that came up for me in a meditation a couple days ago, as the pain of kind of the state of our nation right now. It's like we are evolving, but maybe we're, a 10-year-old in life, and we need to get ourselves to the teenage years, and then we need to get ourselves to the adult years, and then the wise woman years, but I got a visual in meditation of a seam, and to me the seam represented the divide in our nation right now, and this seam was glued together, and then there was solvent just being poured all this, and I saw it coming apart. And I was watching it come apart. And then I just imagined some stitching going on. In other words, the stitching was more powerful than the glue. So what that said to me was that right now we're realizing that our glue isn't strong enough for the solvent that's being poured upon it. And what I'm hearing now is people blaming the solvent and other people blaming the glue. And in my mind, I interpreted that as there is hope that we can find a way to stitch this together. And it's, through perspectives like the ones you just shared, that really gives me a lot of hope and promise, because I feel that once the dust settles and we start to realize that, as you said earlier, it's a big marketing ploy. I don't care if, who you supported, we'll use the presidential election. It's the obvious example right now. It doesn't matter who you supported in that. It's not the people that voted for the opposite side that is your problem. It's, we're all doing this, like you said, out of love for the country, I hope, and the love for what the country offers and how much different we are than any other nation in the world. And to lay that blame on someone else who is equally as patriotic about the country as you are, but just, for lack of a better example, one side believes the other side's lying, the other side believes the other side's lying, and then there's the majority of us that lie somewhere in the middle that like rationale and common sense. So I really like the way you placed that. That was beautiful, and I thank you for that. Boy, this time is flying by. We're about done here. I can't believe it. It seems like we just got started. But before I got one last question for you, and I can't wait to hear how you answer this. But before I do that, I just want to encourage anybody who's watching now or who's going to tune in later, please take the time now to check Amanda Kiefer Dunn's page out on YouTube, the Dunn Creative. Follow her on Facebook if you're not already. And I'd also like you guys to connect with me on Facebook as well. Check out my website, CoachJerryHLC.com. HLC stands for Holistic Lifestyle Coach. And yeah, I'm here to help people, like I said, take the sick and tired, make them young and vital, and through the miracle of internal and external fitness. So got to cover all the bases, you guys. But before I get into that, Amanda, before we wrap this one up, I'd just like to ask you one final question, and that is, if you could give one gift of awareness to the globe, what would it be?
Basically not try to be anyone that you're not, or, because you'll be, I think Kurt Cobain said, would you rather be a perfect example of yourself or a second-rate version of someone else? And it's amazing too, because those are, the Great Awakening, as we were talking about, it's just the fact that when we can each start shining our own authentic individual light, it's just going to get brighter and brighter and brighter. And I always use this analogy in my readings, but we're basically acting as catalysts to awaken others as well. And I look at it as lighthouse energy. So the Lighthouse, I'm getting chills every time I talk about this. I get major chills because it's just
you give me a lot of chills today.
so right. I love that. But the lighthouse that's in the harbor, it doesn't run out into the ocean and start chasing down ships like this way. It doesn't go all over trying to force its agenda on anybody. What that lighthouse does, and this is what all of us should be doing and could be doing, stand solid in your own foundation of what you know is right for your soul and your life, and just shine that freaking light, because when someone starts to get that little seed breaking the surface, they're going to know exactly who to go to talk them off the ledge of crazy that they could possibly go down during that dark night of the soul. They will know that beacon of light because they've seen it all over their newsfeed or all over their life, just shining and being itself. And the more that we can just, break through the BS and break out of that box that we were told to be when we were young, or that our parents told us to be, or society told us to be, or the world told us to be, realize there is no freaking box. Your soul, allow your soul to come more online through meditation, and your soul will lead the way. Your soul will be that lighthouse for you, and then you can also help be that lighthouse for other people. So that's my advice.
Woo! You got me pumped up. I'm gonna go do some squats now or something. I'm ready to rock. Yeah, that's
energy
awesome. Yeah,
flowing.
energy flowing, exchanging. But yeah, and I would just, if you don't mind, I'd like to add to that. If you do feel like you're stuck in a box for some reason, if you feel like you're in prison, first of all, you can't get out of prison until you realize you're in one. I believe it was Ram Dass that said that. But if you find yourself in a box, ask yourself, who built that box, right? And who says you have to be in a certain box? So I love your message, Amanda. I can't thank you enough for coming on and joining me today. You've really uplifted my spirits with your insight and perspective, and I can't thank you enough. You're a wonderful person. You do wonderful work, and I strongly encourage all you guys, if you haven't checked her out already, please do. If you found value in this conversation, I ask that you please share it with your friends and family or anyone else that you think might find value in it. And again, thank you, Amanda. Thank you all for tuning in and watching today. Had a wonderful time, and I look forward to doing this again, and I hope that you'll come on again someday.
Yeah, anytime.
All right, excellent. Amanda's got a live here in about 1 hour. She's going to catch something to eat and then go live on YouTube. Check it out, you guys. She does live tarot readings on YouTube, the Dunn Creative. Check it out, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know every time she goes live. All right, thank you again, Amanda. Thank you, guys. Until next time, this is Jerry with the Dream Chaser Spotlight. Take care. Live well.